One thing carefully sidestepped in my controversial Nexus 4 review, of which more later in the show, was much talk of the software on the phone, and that's because it's stock Android 4.2.1 and it's also available here on the Galaxy Nexus, which I have. Android 4. What, I hear you say? Stock Android always leads the versions you'll find on most other Android smartphones by a good 6 months, often up to a year, which means that many of the improvements being highlighted here in this segment will be making their way onto your phone if you're lucky, or your next phone at some point in the future. There's a lot improved under the hood, a few things which got broken, including my precious Signal Boost utilities, so watch for Android 4.2.2, I guess. But I did want to highlight some of the things that you'll be able to notice in Android 4.2. In no particular order, the camera application has been totally rewritten with a novel and rather useful finger-centric UI. Rather than having to stop and look at what to tap on, you can start anywhere and a control circle appears. Just swipe out and around as needed to change the main settings or mode. Very cool, and an interface that's growing on me fast. One new module in camera is Photosphere, essentially just a panorama mode on steroids, allowing some up and down movement too. Here's a typical result. Not bad, but in my experiments, you can always see the joins. My Galaxy Nexus has always put out a glowing clock while docked, but the new Android Daydream function extends this idea, giving the choice of a clock, a glowing pattern, news stories or photos, all displaying while charging, or again, officially docked. In theory, other apps can plug into the system too. Unlike previous Android versions where there was the choice to swipe in various directions on the lock screen to launch different apps, this has been extended with actual interactive widgets that can be swiped between. All a bit silly, really. If you want to interact with your phone, then just unlock the thing. And if you've got a security lock in place, then this will still need entering even after you've done some swiping and interacting, which just feels wrong. I ended up with just camera in one direction and the Plume Twitter client in the other, plus the ubiquitous Google Now for a swipe up, of course. Added to the Android keyboard is a swipe clone for those that like tracing outwards rather than tapping. I do prefer the latter, but at least it's great for the OS to offer users the choice right out of the box. There's now a new button on the notifications pane, bringing up some settings shortcuts, or you can pull this down directly with a 2-finger drag. All seems a bit half-hearted though, especially as most of the tiles just take you into settings anyway. More polish needed here, Google, I think. Good to see Google Chrome here as the only browser. I'm a huge Chrome fan on the desktop, and this is all synced nicely together with that. Wonderful. Finally, there are some significant improvements here under the hood in terms of enterprise encryption, VPNs, a rewritten Bluetooth stack, and so on. On the downside, I've had a few random reboots and crashes, so again, roll on Android 4.2.2. But I still recommend it as a step forward for the OS. It's available now for the Galaxy Nexus, and it comes out of the box, of course, on the Nexus 4. The number one thing I keep getting asked is, of course, which smartphone do you recommend? And I'm also accused of finding fault with everything. Well, no phone's perfect. But there have been some handsets which have impressed with their build, their functionality, their value for money, their flexibility, their future-proofing, and their unique selling points. An honourable mention has to go to this venerable Galaxy Nexus that I keep brandishing around, still my own favourite incarnation of stock Android, but now relegated to the snap it up if you spot it in a second-hand bargain bin territory, and pushed out of the top 5 by, well, you'll see. Another honourable mention has to go to the Nokia Lumia 920. I did say this wasn't really for me a couple of shows ago. The sealed battery, the many unfinished things about Windows Phone 8, but the sheer quality of the screen, the speaker, the camera, Nokia's suite of software and cloud integration just can't really be ignored. Do look out for this in my top 5 sometime next year when Microsoft has actually finished the operating system. This slot in the 5 has ended up being the Dead Man slot, the one for Walking Dead operating systems. Given 3 Android phones still to come in the top 5, I wanted to pick something different, something that shows the sort of variety that's possible in the world of phones and smartphones. It was very tempting to pick the Nokia 808 here that I keep going on about. It's still my own phone of choice and the best camera phone of all time. An incredible functionality, but Symbian does seem to be completely out of fashion at the moment, and you're also fed up with me talking about it. So I'll pick another dead operating system phone, in this case the Nokia N9, simply because both are so innately pleasant to use, and because if you do pick one of these up, it'll change your whole perspective on what a smartphone user interface could be like. It's liberating, and it'll give you a sneak preview into the sort of thinking that's coming in Jola's new Sailfish OS, based on the same underlying code in summer 2013. The N9 definitely isn't for your friends or family, but if you're a geek and you like to play, I can think of no finer plaything. Look, it's as close as you can get to jewellery in the smartphone world. It's immaculately designed and priced to match. And it's the best iPhone yet, with 4-inch screen, and as usual, everything just works, and with an unmatched choice of apps and games. Do get the white one though, since far too many phone show viewers have been bitten by black iPhone 5s whose paint has started to come off. Apple, you should have stuck to the steel design of the 4 and 4S. I seem to have stirred up a honeypot after Phone Show 188, in which I looked at the Google Nexus 4 in comparison to the existing Galaxy Nexus, declaring it wasn't quite the upgrade that many were hoping for. However, the Nexus 4 has to be in my top 5, of course, through sheer value, and for all those who don't already own its predecessor. Essentially, the Nexus 4 is a £400 smartphone with lightning-fast internals at a perpetual £150 off, assuming Google have actually managed to get some stock in your country. Do look out for it. And yes, as recommended, as a very real upgrade in terms of hardware for the Galaxy Nexus fan, the S3, now 8 months old, is still more or less top of the heap. The camera is the best in the Android world, the screen's superb, the speaker good, the quad-core processor fast, the micro SD support and removable battery give unrivaled flexibility, and my only quibbles are the TouchWiz interface, which you can largely sidestep with a new launcher, and the somewhat quaint reliance on a physical home button, which admittedly some people do prefer. And second-hand, in good condition, this is now well below £300, making it a viable purchase for many. I loved this when I reviewed it in Phone Show 184. It's the smartphone for every single person who doesn't want a monster screen in their hand and pocket all the time. In fact, you still get a 4.3-inch Super AMOLED screen with gorgeous colours in the body of what used to house a 3.7-inch screen. Anyone remember the Google Nexus 1? Plus, this thing's fast, just about indestructible and waterproof, stocked with software, has a decent HDR camera in good light, good speaker, and the only real issues are the sealed battery, which I'll forgive because it's capacious, and that the Google's Jelly Bean update for it is taking its own sweet time. It's now due in January. Oh well. Still my top pick overall, the Razer I, or Razer M if you're in the States.